Hey, hi there. Welcome to iCoding Club. Today we're going to talk about the debounce pattern in JavaScript and how we can use it to limit the JavaScript call rate. Now, just a definition of the debounce, it is basically a pattern to limit the rate of function call. But it's very interesting in the nature that is not only very useful utility which you may require in your regular development, but it's also a very frequently asked question in JavaScript interviews, especially the advanced one. It required the thorough understanding of how the asynchronous JavaScript work and how you can use it to your advantage while you do the code. Now today we're going to understand the whole debounce part step by step. We're going to dissect it in part by part. And first we're going to understand what is the debounce. And then we're going to implement a debounce function in the plain JavaScript. No library, no framework, nothing. Just plain JavaScript. And when we implement it, we're going to focus on three main part of the debounce function. That is how we can delay a function call, how can we do a cancel of a function call, and how we can maintain the context. So the more on these topic when we go to the code part of it. But first, uh, let's understand what is the practical use case of debounce. So let's assume that you are a user and you are trying to search on Google that what is the debounce, and Google provide you a certain text back as a suggestion of your search. Now there are two ways we can implement it. Um, First one is you search it, and with every key press, you take the keyword and send it to the server. So with every key, you will pass a new token to the server. So when someone press W, then that go, then WH that will go, then WHA, then that will go, and so on with your whole text. Definitely, it's not a scalable solution that with every keyword you have to send a, a kind of a token to the server. But what else we can do? Basically, we want to provide the search solution or the suggestion back to the client, right? So what is the better way? Now, one way is you provide a debounce before the fetch call. The debounce will limit your function call and then only send the token when it's meaningful. And you can customize that logic depending on your need when you actually want to send the text to the server. Now, in our case, it's it's something we can figure out if you just try to understand this case study. Um, there are few things we can figure out, like not on every key press we need to send the search token to the server, um, because if somebody's trying to set like what is at this time it's not even a meaningful keyword, right? You doesn't server cannot provide you any meaningful suggestion back from that keyword, so you may want to hold it down. But if you kind of go a little bit too early, what you will do, you will unnecessarily increase the load on the server. But if you are too late sending the token, then it could be too late to provide the autocomplete suggestion to the user. So a real balance is the key here, right? So this is one of the case where we can reuse the debounce, and definitely there are multiple cases where it can be used. And that's what we're going to do next is we're not going to go toward the case study per se, but we're going to implement the debounce step by step, and I'm just going to start that part in the next section. All right, let's jump to the code now. In this code, we're going to build a debounce function step by step manner, and we're going to focus on three main things. That is how to delay a function call, how to cancel a function call when it get called before the delay time, and third is how to maintain the context. So right now I just have one working React setup put together. Use any scaffolding tool you would like. I'm using Create React app, but any else will do. And I have just one index file and some few basic styles. And if I run it on the browser, it just looks like this. So absolutely nothing is there. We're just going to start from the scratch. Now let's first create a component. We will call it search and search JSX. All right. And inside the search, let's put one heading first and debounce search. And inside of it, we're going to have one input. This we're going to use it for to capture the user text. Just some placeholder. Let's close it. If I just want to implement and just to make sure, um, just to want to verify that if the whole thing is working or not, I can just have like text called set text, and we'll use state to capture the state of it, and this text we're just going to display it on the UI under an output section. We can put it below of text, and let's call this one a simple text. Simple text, right? And just to make sure that everything is working, on change we just put we're just going to have handle change, and inside of handle change we're going to do us we're going to set the text. So set text, and we can get the value equal to event dot target dot value, and we can put it here. We can have one more section just like a normal text, and that text section we're going to call it like a smart text, and that will be nothing but a debounce text. Put s2. For now, we will just call it just like set text for now. And later on, idea is to show that and differentiate like how the text on the UI come when you actually just let it come on the UI, or in the second case when you actually debounce it, right? And that's the goal of this whole code exercise. Let's see how it's working right now. Okay, so I forgot to include it. Um, import search from search, and we can have it here. All right, working fine. Let's see what is debounce. And as expected, right now there is no big difference. Obviously, this is just almost like a same logic. But next, we will try to include debounce, and in that case, what we will see that This will behave as it is, but the smart text will work more like a smartly and get debounce after the utility call. So let's go back. Now, ideally, we should be creating a debounce into a dedicated file in the utility folder, but for the simplicity, I'm just going to keep it here, and we're going to call it debounce. Now the debounce function or the utility take two main argument, and third is the optional one. The first argument is a function which will be get called in a delayed manner, and the delay depend on the what wait time you provide. Third is like, it can take some kind of more options, like, you want an early debounce or delayed debounce, and more about it, immediate call and so on. But in this video, just to keep things simple, we're not going to focus on the third option. We just focus on these two, right? And let's put the code back here in the handle change, uh, and just to complete that part first, and then we'll come back to the debounce again. And to do that, what we need is basically kind of a debounce version of set smart text. So we'll call it like debounced smart text, debounce smart text. And for this, you can call like debounce, pass your original function, and we're going to put a wait time for now for 2 seconds. Right? It's a little bit higher, but it will help us in this demo to visualize it much more better way on the UI. And what we want is basically to call this debounce smart text whenever a handle change happen. And this is fine in general, but the one problem we have with the functional component or the React component is that every time you re-render the component, it's going to create a new version of debounce, which could be a problem for us. So what we can do, we can use the utility provided by React, that is use callback. And we will just wrap everything inside of it. And we just want to create it once, so we'll provide an empty array as a dependency. This will make sure that for every render, we just have one version of it, one instance of the debounce. Now we can go back and focus on our function. So let me take this agenda here, and let's start working on it one by one. The first is the delaying a function call. Now how I can delay this function call? One thing we know at this point is it's going to return a function, because that's we going to call it on the handle change. So let's create one function, and that will be returned from here. And what we can do, we can just call like set timeout, provide the wait time which is provided here, and then we can have a function call here. All right, and in this case it will work. But the function is going to take some text value. So what we can do, we can provide here a text which can be taken here on the actual call value. That's how it's all linked together. But to keep it more generic, what we can do, we can just use kind of spread notation to take all kind of argument which come to the function, and we can pass that to this function. In that case, it is much more generic and independent of our current case, right? So let's clean it up, all right? And at this point, kind of we managed to done the first part of it, delaying a function. So let's see, like, if it is really working. So we go back here, refresh it, and just search what is debounce. So we can see that, there is a delay happening for sure, and it's working more like kind of the output you see on the chat GPT or something like that. But delay is not what we are looking basically. What we are looking for the meaningful delay, and you call the function when only you have the meaningful text ready to send to the server. And for that, you actually have to kind of cancel the call in case um, you get a frequent call back to the system, right? So let me first check mark the first one. So that is done. And canceling a function call if um, if new call happen before the wait, right? So what we're going to do is basically we're going to debounce a function. We'll wait for the time provided, and if there is no further call happen in that time period, that call will go. But let's say another call happened, let's say in 1 second or 1.5 seconds. Then the previous call, which we kind of kept the hold on, we would like to cancel that because now there is no use of that function because we have the much more better text, much more meaningful text, right? Maybe the previous one just captured the WH, but now we have what is, right, which is more meaningful. So definitely we want to uh, disregard or kind of cancel the previous one. So how we can do that? So one way to do that is um, you take this timeout and you cancel it, right? And how we can do that? We can actually keep a ref on the timeout, and we're going to call it set timeout. The ref of the timeout, and we can initialize it with let and just point it out to set timeout. And what we want to do basically is every time we come to this function, um, we just want to clear it out. So we can call it like clear timeout, and that's it. The reason is, let's say there is a first case when between two function call there is a gap of the wait time. So you came, you sent you waiting for the let's say 2 second, and after that you did the server call, and then the second call happened. By this time the objective of set timeout is over, so clearing it is has no impact at all. The second case is like the second call happened before the wait time, and in that case you will cancel the previous call and just continue with the next call. And that's how it's actually work, right? Now let's see how it goes. So let me search what is, let me wait, and that's come debounce, and it came. Let's learn more about it. So we can see that it's happening in a clear expected manner. In the first simple text version, and every key press the function get called, but in the smart text version, effectively it get called 3 times, right? So that's basically what we wanted, and it seems like it's all working fine. Now, in most of the cases, especially in React environment, in another modern framework environment, you can actually close everything here. This code just work fine and will not give any much problem. The third case only come in the very in the React it come very rarely where you actually need a context, but in the plain JavaScript and in the native JavaScript or in the React class component, this can be very useful, right? So next, what we're going to do, we're going to finish the debounce function with the last part, that is maintaining the context, and that required a little bit of code setup before you actually kind of jump on it. So if you're not interested on this part, you can just stop here and that will be good enough for it. And the next part, I'm just going to convert the search component, search function component to a class component so that I can demo how the context maintenance actually essential and how we can actually complete our debounce function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this file and call it search by class, right? And going to convert this whole thing into a class component. So that is class search by class extends react dot component, and we're going to have one constructor here, props, and that's called super props, and then this dot state, we're going to initialize it with the empty array, right? We don't need this. um, we might need something like this, so let's keep it commented here at the top, and we can convert handle change into a class function, right? And this whole return will go inside the render function. All right. So this kind of done the basic part of it. What we're going to do next is um, we're just going to have, we already have the handle change here, and we're going to have two function. One will be handle text, and second would be handle smart text. So let's finish this one first. Handle text. So text, and this we're going to say this dot set state, text, we can say this dot handle text, and then we can have just the value. Here we can just kind of destructure it, text and smart text, and we'll pull it from this dot state. All right, so let's see, like, if things are working fine. This dot handle change. One more thing I believe we have to do is to bind it. That is what you do in the class-based component. This dot handle change, bind this. Now, if you are thinking about the arrow function, usage of arrow function here, just wait for it. We will come to that in the last part. Definitely, we can use the arrow function here to avoid the binding, but uh, there's one part which I want to discuss it at the end. So let's do it, and let's pull it here, right? Hopefully, at least the basic part is working fine. We don't need this. We don't need this. Let's see. It's not a construction. What I extended for? Extend React component, not a function, just a class. All right, let's rename it Debounce search by class, just to make it sure that it is coming from the class component. All right. So what is Debounce? I guess we did not set up the next one. So we will have one more function that is handle smart text. All right, lot of work just to migrate a functions component to a class component, but I believe it should be working fine now. What is debounce? All right, so we back to the state one, because definitely we are not using the debounce here. So what is our objective is like, we will leave the handle text as it is, but we're going to debounce or provide a debounce in the handle smart text. So what we can do, we can have one more function here or one more property here. We call it like um, debounce handle smart text, and we're going to debounce this part. All right, so handle this. And in place of calling the handle smart text directly, we're going to call it debounce smart text, right? Or we don't need callback. All right, so let's see the code one more time. What we are trying to do, on every change, we are calling handle text and handle smart text, which will going to put the value on the UI. But for the smart text, we are now wrapping it with a debounce, or we are expecting this data to come after 2 seconds, right? So that's the objective here. Let's see if it is working fine on the UI. What is debounce? So what we can see that for a simple text we are getting the value, but for the smart text we are not getting the value. Let's see the what is the error display. It say cannot read properties of undefined reading set state. Search by class, line number 50. So line number 50, this set state. So seems like this is undefined here. So we can put it there, console.log. This and this, and indeed it is undefined. And why this is happening? For this, the people who work more on the class-based or object-oriented JavaScript will understand it very quickly. That what is happening basically when you call the handle smart text inside a debounce function, because we created a new function and which got created under this particular function debounce, it actually kind of hold the context of or this of this particular function, or actually the call stack, right? In which it's getting called, which is undefined right now because it's outside of the class. And that's the common problem when you work with the object-oriented JavaScript. In JavaScript you lose this context. Sometimes it get changed depending on the environment you are running and so on. Why this is happening is a bit complex topic, so that's out of this tutorial. But what we're going to do is we're going to fix next our debounce function to honor that particular state or honor the particular context. And to do that, what we can do in place of calling the function directly, when you call this function in your class component here, it's received the current context, that is this of that particular class. So what we can do, we can just store that part and call it like const context equal to this, because when you call this function, that time you receive the this of class because it get called in the context of this particular class. So this will provide it will reference to that particular class or search by class. What we can do next is when you call a function, we can provide this context or this particular context to that particular function, and that will do our job. To do that, what we can do, we can call the function and call something called apply. And the apply take two argument. One is first is the context in which the function or the context with which you want to bind the function, and second is the argument to that particular function. So in the first argument we can provide the context, and in second one we can provide the argument. That's it. Now in place of running the function in an undefined context, now it will run in the context of this of this particular class. Now let's see, like let's go back and see if it is working fine. Let's refresh it. What is debounce? Nice. Let's learn more about it. Perfect, right? And we can see with the previous logs, we are getting the class as the value of this, right? All right, so this is what I wanted to kind of talk in this particular tutorial. We can come back and kind of close our tick mark our last topic or last um, agenda as well. And this will be our final version of Debounce, right? So I can take it and copy back um, in my functional component as well. And just to make sure that everything working fine, I just go back to index and run the functional component one more time. Nice, the by class is gone, and we back to uh, the functional component. Now I can just search what is debounce. Let's learn more. Perfect. So now this is much more generic version of our debounce function, and it working in both class component as well as functional component, as well as it will work in any native JavaScript code base as well. All right, I hope you like the video. In case you like, click on like button and subscribe the channel if you want to see more video like this. Thank you.